My first question is, Simon, for anybody who isn't quite aware, what is Tse Tse Fly and how did it begin?
I call it Tse Tse Fly. Lots of people call it different things. So Tse Tse Fly is actually almost exactly 2 years old. We started in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates in September 2015. And what it was a club night. So living in Dubai at the time, one of the issues that I found is that there was nowhere for me to go and friends, like-minded friends. So rather than sort of complain about it, I decided to set something up where myself and my friends could meet and kind of feel comfortable and enjoy each other's company. There's a very vibrant club culture in Dubai and it's very commercial. So what I thought might be quite interesting would be to take the concept of a nightclub and kind of subvert it. So, for example, instead of playing, I don't know, disco music or house music or whatever, we played sound art. Instead of playing pop videos, we played experimental art videos. And then it kind of started out that way as this kind of, I don't know, social gathering. In the first night, myself and a friend did a sort of performance thing, and it went fairly well, and I thought, well, maybe this can be a monthly thing. And then I realised that I wouldn't want to go and see the same thing every month, the same people performing, so I put shouts out, or I spoke to friends to see if there's anybody else who'd like to sort of involve themselves. And what it became was a monthly kind of entity thing in Dubai with a collective of about, I think there's about between 9 and 11 people who would come along and play. And this is the format, apart from me talking to you, but the format would be people would come into this. And what I did is I made sure I found the worst club in Dubai, because everything in Dubai is really shiny and bright and brand new. I found a place that was horrible, that was smoky, the air conditioning didn't work properly, the sound system was ropey. So I wanted to really kind of like push the envelope in that way. And yeah, it became a monthly event. And alongside that, people came along who kind of worked in different art institutions, organisations, and from that we got commissioned to curate different things. So, for example, you and I first met in 2016 in Blackpool when we were asked to come over and do the Other Worlds Festival. So the whole thing kind of snowballed from this weird monthly bunch of kind of lunatics to this kind of carefully curated, very experimental, very different for the UAE sort of format.
Were you seen as subversive in the UAE, or were you mostly ignored? Is noise considered to be a subversive activity? Or experimental music?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, the first night we did, we had 200 people in the space, and I was very flattered before I realised a lot of those people were arts professionals. So they worked in the commercial art galleries, and they were looking at it as a kind of something that they might be able to add to their, I don't know, mix. Art Dubai were there, for example. Art Dubai is the big international arts fair that happens in Dubai, hence the name Art Dubai. So they were there, and what I didn't want that. I wanted it to be something that wasn't part of any kind of institutional art scene. And the reaction was very favourable, but the reaction was slightly tainted by the fact that I could see that they wanted something out of this that would therefore add to their offering, if you like. It was seen as subversive. Yeah, I mean, there was nothing like it in the UAE. So, from a subversive point of view, it was almost like a rare species, and people were genuinely intrigued. And in terms of how we curated or what we decided to do, decided we could do whatever we want. The brilliant thing about this club is that it was in a hotel. So all clubs in Dubai were in hotels. and you have this kind of, they're called F&B managers, so food and beverage manager. And this geezer, who's about 60 odd, balding, wore a suit. And when we'd set up, he'd come in and he'd just stand there and listen to stuff like that. And he'd say, I've got absolutely no idea what you're doing, but I'm going to let you do it. And that was lovely, to have that sort of friendly, open-minded approach, was very rewarding for us. So, yeah, I mean, as much as anything, just by setting the thing up, we were breaking ground.
I'm interested in the sort of this connection between experimental music and resistance politics. And I think there's the Amnesty International trailer that sort of played on that idea of noise and making a voice heard. And I wonder, have you or the artists under the Tse Tse Fly banner, have they experienced human rights issues working in the UAE and elsewhere?
Not directly. I mean, this is a very vexed question, and it's a very interesting one for me to answer, because working as an artist in a country like the UAE, there's certain rules that you have to follow. There's certain modes of behaviour, there's certain lines you can't cross. When we first started, all we were doing was just doing our thing. There was no political agenda. But what I would add to that is partly because you're not allowed a political agenda that is seen in any way to be counter to the prevailing governments or to the royalty, in the UAE. However, when you live and work in any kind of environment where you see social issues manifest, I can help but be affected by that, And we'd have conversations within our collective group, but genuinely, I'm not being over dramatic, but you really had to whisper. You really had to be careful about what you said and who you said it to. So my own experience as an artist was under this kind of set of rules, if you like, from the human rights side of things. This is a part of the world that the Middle East is a part of the world that's very, very complicated. The West, I think, and certainly, moving to Dubai, I was naive in my own interpretation of right and wrong. However, there are certain universal truths that I believe in, and one of them is you don't treat people like shit. So being able to come out of the UAE and having seen everything I've seen, I have a far better, clearer understanding. I'm not an expert by any means, but I wasn't able to articulate my frustration in the UAE because and again, it's no exaggeration, I would have been sent to prison and I would have been deported. Poor me. But it happens to so many people for far less reasons, for far fewer, for more futile reasons. And that's the kind of hub of this manifestation of Tse Tse Fly. It's using my own experiences to kind of hold up this mirror, not just to that region, but equally to what's happening in the UK. Because, 6.5 years ago, and I know I've said this to you before, 6.5 years ago, people said to me, why the hell are you going to a country that's a dictatorship that treats immigrants in such an appalling way, that doesn't care about gender issues? 6.5 years on, I can say exactly the same thing about the UK. So, there is this, that's why it's complicated, and that's why there's lots of kind of layers to the messages.
That's a very interesting point, actually, because it feels like we're becoming increasingly more and more sort of entrapped in our own hypocrisy, perhaps. So was that the main reason for relocating Tse Tse Fly to the UK? What do you intend to do here?
I mean, the reason for coming back was more prosaic, frankly. It was just, our time was up and we wanted to come back. And one thing that I did kind of contemplate was leaving the Tse Tse Fly thing in Dubai. There's enough people there that could have kind of carried on doing it. But I realised that I was too precious about it. I didn't trust them. And I know that if they'd have done it, I'd have been, you know. So I had this kind of bee in my bonnet about the things that I'd seen, and I had this interesting platform. And it just occurred to me one night, why not put the two together and come to London, back to London, because really we're from London, my wife and I, to kind of bring the concept here and kind of grow it, you know, to include these kind of political messages. And now Tse Tse Fly is officially a community interest company, which is a non-profit organisation. And our remit is to highlight human rights and freedom of speech issues through these kind of events, not to shove it down people's throats, because, you know, I'm not going to sit here on stage every night and pontificate like I am now, you know, but through the things that you'll hear and the things that you'll see and the literature that we've brought along tonight. You know, I sat down with all of the 5 charities that we've represented this evening, and they're really excited because, you know, I think that it's worth pointing out is that there doesn't seem to be an awful lot of protest music or any kind of like any noise, you know, inverted commas, being made about what's happening in the UK and around the world. You know, and I think speaking to from the small charities like Forward to Amnesty, they think that this is a great vehicle for their message, you know, because it's different, you know, because I don't know if Ed Sheeran's here or not, but ordinarily I don't imagine he'd want to talk about FGM on stage one night, for example. So, you know, that this is the kind of new version of Tse Tse Fly, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Kind of covered everything I was going to ask you. I mean, I was going to ask maybe more about music, but maybe the curation of this evening, how did that come together?
The thing was, moving back to London, I didn't know anybody to work with. So when I realised, or when we kind of said, right, we're going to come back to London, I started to plan, and this was back in March. So the 3 performances that you will see tonight, the first is Dashum, the guy called Amit, and Amit's coming down from Leicester tonight to take part. He's been following Tse Tse Fly pretty much from the start on social media. So I've always sort of seen him pop up over the past couple of years, and it seemed only fair to kind of bring him into the fold. And, you know, I know that he's worked with some good people here, and you'll see what he does. It's very DIY, it's very exciting. Kareem, I put a shout out on Facebook and I said, right, this is what we're going to do in London. If you're interested, you know, can you just get in contact? And he did. And we've been talking now for a couple of months. I admire what he does. You'll see what he does really, I feel, encapsulates what we were able to do in Dubai. So he's going to be on after Amit. And the final act is Tonal Liberation Army. So that's Nigel and Ian, and they run Sonic Imperfections, which is the monthly club night in South London. I've known Nige for about 4,500 years. So, yeah, he's a long time. And, you know, we've done bits and bobs together over the years. We've collaborated and you know, been good friends. And he's done stuff with the Untied Knot, and he's done stuff on his own, under his own, or another kind of pseudonym. But I said to him, look, do you want to get involved? And he said, actually, I've got this thing called Tonal Liberation Army. It's Ian and him. And I said, that's fine, that's all I need to know. You're in. So from a curation point of view, you know, from my angle is they get me, they get this, I get them, they're in. And it was that simple, really.